Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another edition of Real News in the Morning Time. 9:01 in the morning. Our boy David Shine Thompson is back with us. That's why the tech stuff is looking great. We're doing great. We're feeling great. It's a Wednesday morning. My name is Mr. Henry. David Shine Thompson here with me as well. We got a jam-packed show today for everybody. Barr was at it yesterday, or they were at Barr yesterday, and Shine Buddy, I got to tell you, man, they figured it out. They figured all the things out. There was so much good substance that came from that, so much great dialogue and genuine exchange of ideas. And they really just wanted to hear the guy out, man. They just wanted to hear what he had to say about things.
What diligent lawmakers they are.
It was a grandstanding opportunity. We all know what's happening with this type of stuff. This isn't surprising to anybody. Hey, as I said, my name is Mr. Henry. David Shine Thompson, buddy. How you doing out there, man? I know you had a quick trip here and back yesterday, and that was, well, it was what it was, right? But how you doing, man?
I blew by Nashville for all of 5 seconds and didn't even go by and see you, even though it was like a mile and a half from your house. But either way, it was a safe trip. And I got to rent a really giant Tahoe, so that was fun.
I was going to ask you what that expedition
Real News.
was. Yeah.
It was Tahoe. It was like a brand new Tahoe. I never drive cars that big. It was pretty cool.
A little bit like driving a boat, except those newer SUVs, man. It
was less boaty. It was less boaty. Yeah.
Less boaty. Got some agility. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Hey, let's dive right into this. By the way, we're off.
Let us dive.
Let's dive. We're off going on all the things, by the way. We're on Facebook, we're on YouTube, we're on all the places here. Greatest audience in the nation appreciation segment, as I'm trying to pull up the unified chat here. Greatest audience in the nation appreciation segment. You let us know how you're doing about things, what you're into, what you're feeling this morning. What books are you reading? What stories are you following? Did you follow the Barr thing happening yesterday? Was that on your radar at all? Did you even care about that yesterday? Are you following all the stuff that's going on in Oregon? Are you following what they were supposed to bring Barr up there to talk about, at least in some part, the most of anyways, the way that they pitched it was about this ongoing violence and federal troops moving in. Now, we see what it turned into is a entirely different thing. But where are y'all at? What are y'all feeling this morning? Let me know in the chat here. How you doing? If you need help with something, if you have, if you know businesses that are trying to innovate that just want to get the word about something, let them know. Come our way. We will put them on the program. We will talk to them. We will interview them. We'll do the whole thing. Make people aware. If you need help with something, man, prayer, just general ideas of concern, anything like that at all, let us know. Hey, Teresa says in Facebook, Shine, great graphics. Yeah, Teresa. Yeah, they are great, by the way. And I'm only smiling, Teresa, because if you sort of periodically or sporadically check this show out, you'll notice, as of yesterday, from time to time, they are not so great. And that's because our boy David Shine Thompson is 100% responsible for all how fantastic this stuff and transitions and all that stuff looks. So we appreciate him for doing that. Hey, Shine, but if you could jump straight into the show notes, and I hate to do this to you, but hey, man, this is 2020. We're here. You gotta, ads are everywhere. I really want to play that video that's linked in that first Fox 17 article. So I'll catch people up to speed and pull that up. And if there's an ad in the background, just whatever, man, let it play through. We'll watch an ad. We'll see if we can all buy a Serta mattress together or something like that. All right. that was the noise, right?
I think it's ready to go. Do you want to play it right now?
Oh, for real? Yeah, go ahead and play it, man. We'll just catch people up. No need to catch people up in property taxes. Things been going on for a long time in Nashville here. We see where we're at. Here's the update as of yesterday, which is just special. Go ahead and play it, John.
The public backlash against Nashville's mayor and the council for raising property taxes by 34% during a pandemic and after a tornado is starting to reach council chambers.
That's right. More council members are considering taking a second hard look at that hefty tax hike. Fox 17 News' Dennis Ferrier shows us what's being discussed.
Everywhere I go, people in Nashville tell me the mayor and the council went too far with this property tax, and that anger is starting to affect the council.
When council considered Mayor Cooper's 34% tax increase, instead of cutting it in compromise, they raised it to 34%, 37% if you live in the GSD like Bellevue or Hermitage or Whites Creek. At first, people were shocked, but then they got angry.
You know, I should hope that my fellow council members feel the same pressures that I do, which is repeated and nonstop from my constituents, highly upset that we're raising taxes 34 and or 37%.
Metro Councilman Robert Swope believes every tax dollar that Nashville unexpectedly makes or is granted should be returned to taxpayers cut directly from the 34% tax hike.
The projected revenue losses over the last quarter were supposed to be in the 200 million range. They're not. They're less than 100 million. Now, when you account for that 100 million plus the 120 million that we've already gotten from the federal and state governments in grants for the COVID relief process, another 10 million that we just got as a grant from the state last Tuesday, and God only knows what's coming down the pike over the course of the next 30 days. I filed a resolution which was summarily rejected by this current council to do a dollar-for-dollar reduction on the tax levy.
Rejected, but now here comes Councilman Steve Glover with a new budget proposal today, cutting government services and the tax rate back to 22%. Not as low as he wants, but a starting place.
The mood of the people out there right now, the mood of the people in Nashville, if they fight me on this again, then the gloves are off completely at that point.
Glover's budget calls for more budget cuts, something Mayor Cooper has refused. While Nashville suffers layoffs and furloughs and businesses down 50 to 90%, the city rolls along without a single layoff, without even a one-day furlough for any employee.
If we don't start furloughing or laying off, etc., because that's what's happening in the real world out here, quit using the old slogan, oh, and we've been able to preserve the government. What does that mean? What it means is the government's taking your money.
Many taxpayers believe Nashville government is just not suffering as much as its residents are suffering. That we are actually not all in this together, not equally.
And it's
Teresa said,
good for me to hear it.
Cut that there. Teresa said in Facebook, by the way, how are they getting away with that? Yeah, that's kind of the question, and I think that's what's coming to light for a while.
They got away with it because they introduced it and passed it in like a week and a half, right?
Yeah,
something like that. It was like a week and a half, 2 weeks, and there was very little opposition. But it was because opposition needed to grow. People needed to hear about it. Now they have, and the word's on the street. In the streets are mad about it.
Streets are mad about it. Yes. Word's on the streets, and the streets are mad about it. That's right. Hey, by the way, before we move forward too much here, Judy said in Facebook a second ago, good morning. This old woman could use some prayer for good vibes and health. I just wanted to draw attention to that in case you're watching over on Twitch or in case you're watching over on YouTube and you believe in the power of prayer, you believe in the power of good vibes, whatever powers you believe in. Personally, power of prayer is where I would pull that from. But hey, wherever you're pulling it from, just prayers for Judy, concerns for Judy, just send that out there. I just want to make sure that we're actually following up on the greatest honest the nation appreciation stuff there. But property tax issue at hand, what you're hearing right now, I think one of the best things you heard right there is, okay, we were looking at what $130 million shortfall is the original figure that I heard. Now it looks like about a $200 million shortfall. But then you get some sales tax numbers in, and it's not looking like that at all. In fact, and you get some other 100 million coming in from this spot, another 10 million coming in from that spot, another 20 million coming in from this spot. And it's starting to look like this 34% property tax increase was not needed at all anyways. And the whole purpose of it was just to maintain the current size of metro government. And I think at the very end there, the most pointed example of what's going on that could actually turn this local story into a national story, the feeling of equity, lack of there, you know what I'm saying? That there's some type of inequitable, this stuff is spread across the board that you're not suffering the same way that we are, that everybody's losing their job right now. Everybody's losing hours right now. Everybody's losing is having to struggle to get along, to go along type thing, except metro government. Metro government hasn't lost any people. Metro government was actually talking about instilling a $15 minimum wage. Metro government is increasing their police. No, I'm not saying this isn't the point to make whether or not someone should be increasing police departments or decreasing police departments. It's a totally separate conversation. The point of this conversation, though, is that people are feeling like they're getting the runaround. People are feeling like, hey, hold on, man. Metro government, I own a bar and you just shut down my business and then increased my property taxes on that business that you just shut down so you also wouldn't have to fire people. What about the 40 employees that I have across 3 different restaurants that I just had to furlough? What do we do with that? That's the sense of equity that I'm talking about. That's the sense where people are starting to feel, is this really about it? What is this about a property tax issue? That's why I started this whole thing. Not I, but the AFP when we jumped on board with this For Good Government thing. For Good Government, number 4goodgovernment.com, by the way. Property tax issue that's going on right now. There's a thing that we're trying to get people to sign in Davidson County, registered voters in Davidson County. We're trying to get people to sign it. It's called the Nashville Taxpayer Protection Act. I don't want to go too much into this right now. But when we started this is why I wanted to become something bigger than just a property tax issue. I wanted to send a clear message to the entire state, across the state, for all Tennesseans to recognize local government on all the way through up, that they're demanding proper stewardship of our tax dollars. Increased transparency right now. In a representative republic, you are representing me. You work for me. I wanted people to share this website, forgoodgovernment.com. Share this website with anybody that you know that's a registered voter in Davidson County, or anybody that's just in Middle Tennessee at all. They might be able to get it to someone that's a registered voter. And the last thing I'll say, and then we'll go on to Governor Lee's statement yesterday. We are doing fantastic, by the way. Those number of signatures, we are absolutely, y'all are hands down just incredible. Absolutely incredible. That's all I can say. The amount of effort and force and work that you put into it, to coming out to see us at early voting locations, to come volunteer with us, to make some phone calls with us, to send some text messages out, to some door knocking stuff that we got coming up. You guys have absolutely been incredible. So I just thank you, sincerely thank you. Hey, second story of the day here. Governor Lee, I'm speeding through the local stuff a little bit just because I want to get some of this Barr testimony, right? But Governor Lee yesterday comes out, and you'll see this here. It's a News Channel 5 headline. And this whole story is just chock full of stuff, so I'm not going to be able to get to a lot of it. But the story basically says that Governor Lee outlined his recommendation for Tennessee school districts to return to school, which included guidance on in-person learning, quarantine durations, teacher safety, and much, much more. Now, this is just a quick little snippet of what he says. He says, quote, "Providing parents a choice in their children's education is incredibly important. In-person learning is the medically sound preferred option. Our state is doing everything we can to work with local school districts and ensure that in-person learning is made available in a way that protects the health and safety of our students and educators. And this plan helps accomplish that goal." I would like to know in the Facebook comments, in the YouTube comments, Twitch, wherever you got. I got the unified chat up right now. How do you feel about this? I know some people watch this in different states as well. How are y'all feeling about kids going back to school? Governor Lee here in Tennessee went on to say that Tennessee is prioritizing health and safety of our school communities, ensuring schools. Sorry, this is the Tennessee Commissioner of Education. This is Penny Schwinn. My bad. She says ensuring school and teachers, families, and students have the critical resources and support they need to start the new school year strong is paramount. And I'm thankful to Governor Lee for continuing to support education in Tennessee as schools reopen across the state. Now, this thing goes on to talk about when to test for quarantine, 10-day sick window. That's the new update from the CDC. It's no longer a 14-day sick window. But if you have come into contact with someone, it's a 14-day quarantine period. Contact tracing, it addresses there. Basically saying keeping schools open for in-person instruction depends on our ability to quickly isolate people who are sick and quarantine those that they've had close contact with. It's talking about if a child is ill, parents should be notified. The texting platform is going to be used. Immunizations, oddly enough, are still applicable to those even that are just going to do remote learning. So even if you're not showing up in person, you still, to actually register for the school year, still have to be up to date on your immunizations. It's just, well, that is what it is, I suppose. I just found it a little bit odd in a practical sense. But what do I know? Academics empowering parents, talking about whether it be in-person or virtual learning. We want parents to have a choice in their child's education. For those who choose the virtual option, the state will provide free resources to supplement their district's school-based services. Those resources include early literacy research, PBS learning series, a STEAM resource hub, start of the year checkpoint, a whole bunch of other stuff. Now, I went through all that just to say this stuff is chock full. A massive amount of stuff that was in there. But the thing that people focused the most on was contact sports. I don't know. Is it just because it's Tennessee, or is it just because we desperately need some sense of normalcy again? I mean,
it pays for everything.
No,
what do you
well,
mean? I mean, yeah, let's be real about it, bro. I mean, football pays for the whole sports program at almost every high school. Or if the basketball team's good, then the basketball team pays for every sport. You don't have swimming without football. You know what I mean? Because all the 5 or 6 people who go to the swimming matches, they don't, and pay for tickets, that doesn't buy uniforms, that doesn't buy gas to the swimming matches in other cities, or even cross country. I mean, cross country at Oak Ridge used to make a little bit of money, but football paid for everything. That's why they're concerned about contact sports, because that's part of how we fund education.
Well,
in Tennessee.
That's true. I hear you there, man. I definitely hear you there. I mean, I should have thought about that as the main aspect, but I guess that's what's going on because that seemed to be the main thing that people were talking about yesterday. Here's what he's talking about: is Governor Lee will issue. It says News Channel 5 is reporting Governor Lee will issue Executive Order number 55. Number 55 to allow for contact sports to resume, provided they follow the requirements of the TSSAA. TSSAA non-schools must follow equivalent guidelines, and non-school sponsored athletics should follow the Tennessee Pledge guidelines. An update to the Pledge guidelines will be forthcoming. During Tuesday's press briefing, Governor Lee and Commissioner Lisa Percy said that the CDC and American Academy of Pediatrics recommend reopening schools for in-person learning. However, both agencies say the number of one consideration for districts should be whether or not COVID-19 is under control in the community. So I guess this will be a case-by-case basis is what it makes it out to sound like, but we'll see how that goes going forward. Hey, let me hit some comments here real quick. RealNewsRadio.live, RealNewsRadio.live. That's the central landing page for all real news things related. That's where you'll find the Minds. I just posted on Minds, actually. You'll find Minds there. You'll find Minds.com, that is. You'll find Parler account. You'll find ThinkSpot. You'll find Twitch. All these weird words that I see out there, if you don't know what those are, hit RealNewsRadio.live. You'll see, just, I don't know, go peruse around. See what you think about those types of things. Let's see here. Kelly said in Facebook, hey, family, I do have a big prayer request. All right, there you go. Kelly has a big prayer request. Her grandmother's memorial service is this Saturday. They're traveling to Florida. So she'll covet all of her prayers for family and our safe travels while we're away. Many thanks to all of you. Kelly's going to Florida, grandmother's memorial service. Again, sorry to hear about that, Kelly. I think she was the matriarch of that family too, right?
Condolences for sure.
Yeah, traveling to Florida. So safety for travel, safety for all the other stuff that's going on right now, and just unburdening as well, right? I think that's what's needed right now during times like that. Eric says in Facebook, the first reason Cooper gave during the press conference was that they would have to cut government jobs and we would feel bad about that. Okay, he's talking about the property tax thing. We should sacrifice ourselves for government workers. Yeah, that's what Eric's saying too. Teresa says on Facebook, my grandson is doing virtual. No way he's going back now. Already cases in Oak Ridge. Well, said band camp closed down within 2 days. Goodness,
man, that stinks, man. Band camp was such a big deal for the band people. That's where like they learned all the songs and all the marches, and we always me and you would do 2-a-days.
Yeah, dude.
And we'd always, as bad as it was, we were over there, throwing up from running out in the heat too much. But we'd always feel so bad for them because they were wearing that full garb,
right.
you know?
Like the full cotton, long sleeves, long pants, those head
cotton my rear end. That was a poly cotton blend. Right. You know it was. Polyester cotton blend. And it looks, and those big old hats. And we're like, man, that looks so hot. Man, I feel bad. It is so sad how much this is just, I couldn't imagine being in high school.
Yeah.
Because high school was so, me and Grant were in high school together. It was a magical time. And I just can't imagine how much this disrupts that. And I want to say, too, Grant, if these things are on a case-by-case basis, I bet everyone is more relaxed by 2 months into school because the teachers and faculty are going to be like, this is too much. These kids don't even care about this. You know what I'm saying? It's hard enough to control and keep kids on the ball. Get them in class. That's hard enough.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, my mom, full disclosure, my mom's a principal at Oak Ridge. And, it's a job. It's a job getting all that done. Adding all this stuff, more paperwork, more things to worry about. Ugh. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
I'm skeptical of the practicality of this. Yeah.
No, I know. There's a couple stories I've been compiling over the last couple of weeks here about sort of the, I don't know the best way to phrase this, unrecognized outcomes or not even the unintended consequences. It's just the things that are happening due to the pandemic-related shutdowns and everything that are not receiving a lot of public attention. And I just didn't know if today was the right time to go on, and it's still probably not. It's not in the show notes, but we'll hit it tomorrow or Friday or something. Some of them are the numbers of divorces apparently are skyrocketing. Some of them are obviously the world starvation level is skyrocketing again. I mean, just a lot of stuff that you just really wouldn't initially
Oh my goodness,
think.
dude. The UN estimated back in, it was May or June. So May or June, people thought a lot more people were going to die and things were going to be shut down a lot. So this may be an overestimate, but in May or June, the UN estimated that because the United States and the rest of the first world economy slowed down, that 35 million people worldwide were going to die of starvation in the coming 12 months. So that's something else to think about when pushing for shutdowns, is it doesn't just like ruin Americans' lives by like taking away their jobs and that awesome feeling of working and like getting the job done, because that's powerful for the human mind and keeping your psyche healthy. It literally kills people in other countries who live on, we've gotten the average up from $1 a day to up to like $5 or $6 a day worldwide is the average. Yeah. Like, it's incredible, but that's just plummeting. Because, like, so we buy everyone's stuff. So when we're not buying everyone's stuff, they starve, which is weird to think about. But that's what's happening.
Yeah, you're talking about world supply chains being shut down, processing plants going out of business, a bunch of stuff that just is contributing factors to all this stuff. So, anyways, there's stories that I'm compiling and putting together that we'll cover that sometime later on this week. Hey, again, realnewsradio.live, realnewsradio.live. Let's dive right into.
Hey, real quick, I'm so sorry I cut you off right in the dive right into. Teresa said, "Hey, Shine, can you ask her about band, please?" I do not take requests to talk to my mom about Oak Ridge school policy because she wouldn't listen to me anyway. But like, believe me, if decisions are being made, they're probably over her head and she's just enforcing them. You know what I mean? She's not really making any decisions. This is all coming down from
superintendent level type stuff.
Well, and Department of Education too. We're still under in that executive order. The state isn't even in charge of schools right now. Department of Education, national, not state of Tennessee. Department of Education, I think, is in charge of schools and their policies and their guidelines and their safety stuff. So she's not in charge. But anyway, just for the show, just so everyone knows, I don't take requests to talk to my mom about Oak Ridge school policy.
I understand how that goes, man. My brother's company is actually he's a clinical neuroscientist, right? And he did a lot of research on mice brains and all kind of other stuff. He's now moved into the private sector, which is one of the best decisions I think he's ever made. Is his income like tripled overnight. Academia doesn't do justice to what his brain was doing. Anyways, the company he's working for now is doing a lot of research on COVID related cures, not vaccines per se, but some type of COVID related response, if you will.
They doing any hydroxychloroquine research?
See, it's hard to get him to really. Well, he'll give specifics. He actually just put in the family text chain here a second ago, talking about some preclinical efforts that using one of their drugs that got published in a Nature article. So I might bring that up tomorrow, man. But trying to like, hey, Trace, man, give me that inside knowledge, buddy. You know what I mean? I got some moves to make. Anyways, Barr testimony. Let's do this.
It's gonna be so good,
man. There was so much good exchange yesterday, right? I mean,
spicy.
Right? Nobody had a bone to pick about anything, by the way. Let me just say that up front, okay? And everybody gave Barr more than enough time to get his points across. It was nonsense, dude. The whole thing was just pure and utter nonsense. It was just a spectacle. It was a sideshow. It was a circus display. It was fun. It was entertaining. Don't get me wrong. But I mean, they were playing videos from what was it, Venezuela or something, and people boots shutting people down. They were playing videos of the rioters lighting stuff on fire. Every single time a Democrat asked William Barr a question, this is basically how it goes: it's question. No, it was that quick. It was an immediate, as soon as yes or no. It was all leading yes or no questions. This is how it's been over the past couple of years.
Then they'd answer for him, and then say, "Sorry, I need to reclaim my time. Sorry, I need to short time. Need to reclaim my time."
So why ask questions is what I want to know sometimes. Why even ask the question? Why just pretend he's not there and just give a 5-minute speech? I mean, you can do that with your time if you want to. You can. There's not a lot of limits on the 5 minutes that's allotted to you as a representative or a committee member as to what you do with that 5 minutes. You could just sit there silent for all 5 minutes if you wanted to, or you could just make a massive grandstanding speech. Some people do that. There's no actual need to ask this guy questions, but
they should just play real news during their 5 minutes for the audience. That's what they should do with it.
Yeah, they should. Hey, pull up that first Twitter link though, man. It says watch key moments from Attorney General William Barr's congressional testimony.
It's up there already.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead and play that, man. That's a nice little 2 to 3 minute montage of a couple of people that were heard yesterday. We'll listen
in
to
this
this
Justice Department, the president's enemies will be punished and his friends will be protected, no matter the cost to liberty, no matter the cost to justice. Finally, and perhaps most perniciously, the department has placed the president's political needs over the public health.
All they got left is to attack the Attorney General, who had the courage to state the truth right from the get-go, the first time he testifies after he's confirmed. And you guys attack him every day, every week, and now you've filed articles of impeachment against him. It's ridiculous. He had the courage to do what no one else would do at the Justice Department.
Hey, pause that real
President
quick.
has not attempted to interfere in these decisions.
All right, so I just want to pause it real quick. When you heard Jim Jordan talk about it, now you have the whatever he said, the courage to file articles of impeachment. I'm pretty sure that's Steve Cohen. That's our own Tennessee Cohen. He's the one that did that. And the stories I'm hearing yesterday is that a lot of the Democrats up there are saying to themselves, "What are you doing, Cohen? We tried this with the president of the United States a couple months ago. You saw how that worked out for us. Nobody's even mentioning that anymore. I mean, I was talking to Sean the other day, and I was saying, so after this was done, after we all know right now, let me just catch you on up speed. We do currently have a sitting president that has been impeached. He's an impeached president. Or he was not voted out of office. He was acquitted in the Senate as these things end up going. But in a very real technical sense, however absurd and asinine it was, which it was, but in a very real technical sense, we have an impeached president. Here's the point that I'm making. I was fairly certain right after that happened, for the foreseeable future, every time New York Times or especially Washington Post or LA Times or any other publication wanted to come out, and when they normally say Mr. Trump as opposed to President Trump, they would just supplant that with impeached President Trump or impeached Mr. Trump or recently impeached whatever. I haven't seen any of that anywhere. I haven't seen this terminology thrown around at all.
It's because he gained 15 points in the polls. That's why. Right? They don't even want to remind people they even did that.
Yes, dude. It went so bad.
Like, Cohen, they almost forgot we did that.
Right.
Why are you reminding them while people that everyone knows are Democrats are burning down cities? Don't
go
do
brush
that.
your hair, Cohen.
We're not having a good week. Stop it.
Right? Cohen from Tennessee pulls this thing out of nowhere, and that's the word on the street is that other Democrats were thinking, you didn't counsel us first, you didn't come seek whether. It's not like you have to get approval from us for a move like that, but at least give us a heads up.
He's like, I asked Rashida to leave. She said it was okay.
Right? Yeah.
I asked the squad, and they actually run the party now.
Yeah,
so
I got the text right here. Oh, dude. Anyways, that's the story in the street, and it's a great.
And the streets are mad.
And the streets are mad. Why do it with Barr when it certainly didn't work for Trump? There's far more hatred for Trump than there is Barr, right? Anyways, go ahead and play from there. Sorry, Sean.
On the contrary, he has told me from the start that he expects me to exercise my independent judgment to make whatever call I think is right, and that is precisely what I've done. Indeed, it's precisely because I feel complete freedom to do what I think is right that induced me to serve once again as Attorney General.
We're seeming to just contort ourselves to get to some way to show that you have a nefarious motive. I believe, like some of our side here, I believe the biggest problem you have is telling the truth. I believe that's the problem that they have with you. You'll tell the truth and you'll take responsibility for your actions, and I think that's why you're being attacked.
General Barr, you're expecting the American people to believe that you did not do what Trump wanted you to do when you changed that sentencing recommendation and lowered it for Roger Stone. You think the American people don't understand that you were carrying out Trump's
I was not. I had not discussed my sentencing recommendation with anyone at the White House or anyone outside the department.
Wanted you to do, and that's what you did.
No. Let me ask you, do you think it's fair? Do you think it is fair for a 67-year-old man to be sent to prison for 7 to 9 years?
It was in accordance with the sentencing.
No, it was not.
Do you think it's
All
ever
right, pause real
appropriate,
quick
Mr.
there,
Barr,
Sean.
for officers to use force against people?
All right, so when he said there at the very end, he said it was in It was in accordance with the sentencing guidelines. And you heard Barr retort back by no, it was not. This is a little bit later on into the testimony. This is just what you're looking at, by the way. It's just a compilation of a couple little snippets. New York Times put this together. And it's actually not a bad representation of how it went yesterday. As far as representations
There were better quotes, though. New York Times could have done a better job. Some lazy guy making $13 an hour made this video.
There were much better quotes for sure. But as far as the back and forth exchange of Republican Democrat of how it got a little bit contentious more towards the end and how it just slowly devolved into just this shouting match. Reclaim my time, don't answer the question I just asked you. That's absurd. Reclaim my time. That's a bit how it went. To the point, though, of what the representative just asked about the Roger Stone situation. This testimony yesterday was everything from the federal troop involvement in Oregon to Roger Stone to immigration related issues. It was all over the place. And I think because it was so disjointed, if that's even a word, if it was so discombobulated, there's no real directive at all. I think Democrats in particular failed to deliver any real unified message because everyone, even the MSNBC commentary I was listening to yesterday, right after this was done, they're sort of stammering and stumbling over words, trying to figure out what analysis to give this at all. And one person just piped up and said, I don't know what to say about this because Democrats were just all over the page. They were everywhere with this. I don't know what to take away from this. And I was like, well, it's not bad analysis. Anyways, when you heard the representative say at the end there that it was the sentencing guidelines, they're talking about Roger Stone. We covered the story a couple of weeks back. William Barr made the suggestion for President Trump, whatever, commute the sentence, right? Now, it means he's still guilty of it. Just means he's not going to be sitting in jail while he seeks his appeal. And what William Barr was talking about when he said, no, it's not the sentencing guidelines. William Barr goes on to explain later on in testimony that the sentence that they gave to Roger Stone, whoever they is, the sentence that the judge gave to Roger Stone was about 2 to 3 times beyond the sentencing guidelines. Whoever that judge was trying to prove a point with it. I think that was very clear to everybody. So when you heard Barr respond back and get a little bit testy, if you will, about it was not the sentencing guidelines. That was part and parcel, if not a very primary reason why he pushed for recommending something to be done. And Barr has always remained consistent as far as it pertains to the Roger Stone thing, saying that he thought it was a righteous prosecution. He thought that the decision at the end was the correct decision. I don't think anybody on the Republican side has ever argued that Roger Stone was not guilty of the things that he was claimed to be guilty of, or that he was convicted of. I mean, that's exactly what happened.
And his convictions didn't go away. They just commuted the sentence. He's still guilty. He's still a felon.
Right. Hey, you can pick it up from there, by the way. There's a couple of clips left here.
Peaceful protesters, yes or no?
Not against peaceful protest.
So let me ask you, sir, do you think it's ever appropriate to use tear gas on peaceful protesters, yes or no?
Well, the problem in these things sometimes occur because it's hard to separate people who
Mr. Barr, my question is very specific. Do you think it is ever appropriate to use tear gas on peaceful protesters? Yes or no?
It is appropriate to use tear gas when it's indicated to disperse
on peaceful protesters.
To disperse an unlawful assembly, and sometimes, unfortunately, peaceful protesters are affected.
If you can, Sean, talking about the better clips that came from yesterday. Scroll down there a couple links below, and one that says Doug Collins with his body rise up. There's actually a clip underneath that actually ties in well to the last thing that was just mentioned. They're talking about using tear gas on, quote, peaceful protesters. Pull up that second Twitter link, right? Not the Doug Collins one, but this starts with Representative Doug Collins, the stormtroopers comment from the speakers of the House. Cody said in YouTube just a second ago, by the way, he said, I like when Barr's answer was that he would, quote, follow the law, and the Democrat didn't take that as an acceptable answer. I'm telling you, I don't know what the purpose of something like this was yesterday. And as Shine's pulling this clip, I'm going to jump forward real quick here. Okay, yeah, play this real quick then, because this is one of the better exchanges from Representative Doug Collins yesterday, and it kind of plays off what we just said a second ago. But play that clip.
Barr. Wow. I'm beginning to believe, frankly, that you're probably that just hadn't come out yet, probably will in a little bit. You're probably the cause of the common cold and, and possibly even the COVID-19. I'm not sure at this point because everything's being thrown at you, including now, undoubtedly, your alma mater doesn't like you anymore. Where have we come? The chairman said something earlier today that really made me think. He said, why all the drama? That's the most ironic statement coming from this committee in the last 18 months that I've ever heard of, the drama that we're bringing up today. We're seeming to just contort ourselves to get to some way to show that you have a nefarious motive. I believe, like some of our side here, I believe the biggest problem you have is telling the truth. I believe that's the problem that they have with you. You'll tell the truth and you'll take responsibility for your actions, and I think that's why you're being attacked. But I want to continue just on this, quote, peaceful protest for a second. You made a comment just a second ago on these rights. Talking about the courthouses just down the street, what if they decided, do you think that this body right here would rise up if they decided to go tonight and paint the Capitol building?
This body, I'm not sure.
I think this side would. I'm not sure. Yeah, this side, other side, I'm not so sure. It may be the peaceful protest to burn down the Capitol. Maybe we're back to 1812 again. But also, the other question I have is, and you've heard it earlier today, the stormtrooper comments by the Speaker of the House. And we know that that is a direct reference to the paramilitary wing of the Nazi Party. Stormtroopers going at it. Do you believe that that actually puts our law enforcement community at a whole? As a son of a state trooper, I want to know your opinion. Don't you think it encourages the violence that we're seeing and encourages the participation against the police?
I think that's possible, and I think it's irresponsible to call these federal law enforcement officers stormtroopers.
Man, everybody's using this cryptic language, too, of stormtroopers over here. I wish somebody would have just straight up asked.
Propagandic language. Propaganda language is what it is. It's not cryptic. It's alluring. It's alluding to something, but that doesn't make it cryptic. They're trying to paint it as something that it's not.
I do wish they would have just straight up asked him yesterday, though. So what we're really all talking about is that the left is claiming that the right is becoming fascist and the right is claiming that the left is becoming communist. Can we have a quick conversation about that? Attorney General Barr, how do you feel about the allegations that the left is pushing Marxism and communism in the streets? And then a Democrat could easily follow up with, hey, G. Barr, how do you feel about the allegations that the left is saying that the right is using some stormtroopers or something to push fascism? Let's just throw it all out there. Let's just get it out there in the open because we're all using the language that's going to lead us there anyways, right? And you heard what it's become so absurd that it's become a joke to everyone in the room. Shine, you heard him say a second ago, in the middle of that, when Representative Collins came out and said, would this body rise up if rioters came to destroy the Capitol building? AG Barr said, this body? I'm not sure.
And everyone laughed. Like the whole crowd. Did you hear people laughing behind him? Like the media laughed. And I don't know if that's funny or sad because they're like, yeah, they probably wouldn't, yeah. The crowd knew it was true.
That's right. It is that thing of, man, there's always a bit of sincerity, right? Everyone's sarcasm. It's that line of sincerity in there that I think is the real sting. That's what has the sting to it. Because you're exactly right. When they're laughing, they're thinking to themselves, hey, that's probably a little bit true. Yeah, no, they wouldn't say much about that. I have some other clips in here, by the way. There's a few other stories I wanted to get to, so we might gloss over these and maybe come back to them or whatever. But there's one of Jerry Nadler falling asleep here. There's another one of William Barr's opening remarks. We might come back to that one here in just a second after this next story because he actually touches on what he believes to be the justification for federal troops in some of these cities. We also have another one that just really lays out what I was talking about before with the Roger Stone case and the Michael Flynn case. But I believe the biggest clip from yesterday that is really not getting the attention that it probably deserves. There was one actual exchange. Shine, by the way, it's one that's in all highlights there. This thing, boom, AG Barr tells Jim Jordan he is appointed U.S. attorney. Pull up that Twitter link if you can. There was one exchange yesterday from Jim Jordan that whether Jim Jordan was acting or not, who's to say, but he certainly seems surprised by this exchange. And this sort of revelatory piece of information from Attorney General Barr was legitimate news, actual, not like groundbreaking stuff, but it was headline-making stuff news yesterday. And nobody picked up on this except a random Twitter account that you're about to see on your screen right now. I tried to Google it right before the show. I didn't see many other people, actual headlines picking up on this. But go ahead and play that clip. I'll just let Jordan tell you himself. Go ahead.
38 people unmasked Michael Flynn's name 49 times in a 2-month time frame. 7 people at the Treasury Department unmasked Michael Flynn's name. Is this an issue that Mr. Durham is looking into?
I've asked another U.S. attorney to look into the issue of unmasking because of, the high number of unmaskings and some that do not readily appear to have been in the line of normal business.
Wait. I want to be clear. So there is another investigation on that issue specifically going on at the Justice Department right now?
Yes.
Wow, that's great. So Mr. Durham is looking at how the whole Trump-Russia thing started. You have another U.S. attorney. Can you give us that U.S. attorney's name, or is that something you're comfortable doing? Or?
John Bash of Texas.
John Bash of Texas is looking specifically at the fact
at unmasking.
38 people, 49 times unmasked Michael Flynn's name, and probably other unmaskings that took place in the final days of the Obama-Biden administration. Is that accurate?
Actually, a much longer period of time.
Even before that?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. I appreciate
You see why this is such a big deal? This whole thing yesterday was pitched as this idea, and Democrats, every single time they start, this sort of obligatory phrase that every Democrat had to throw in there of doing the president's bidding, doing the president's will, working on behalf of the president here, being the president's wingman or something, drawing back references to Eric Holder, okay? The whole pitch from Democrats yesterday was this idea that the DOJ is somehow in bed with Trump's nefarious agenda. And Jim Jordan, again, this may have been just acting by Jim Jordan. Who knows, man? It's not Academy Award-winning stuff here, and I don't pretend to understand, but I don't think it necessarily cares. Jim Jordan allegedly stumbles upon this revelation that it's not Durham, but an entirely different investigation. I'm asking for real here. This isn't rhetorical. Has anyone else heard this? I just heard this yesterday, that there's an entirely different investigation that's been opened, an attorney out of Texas named John Bash that is specifically investigating the abnormally high levels of suspect and abnormal unmaskings pertaining to General Flynn and others when the Obama-Biden administration was in there. Now, you want to talk about some type of complicit nefarious activity with the White House and the DOJ. That's how it was painted with AG Barr, and we stumble upon this revelation that's something that could actually rise to that level of standard that they're really hoping AG Barr meets. AG Barr is actually investigating right now. That blew my mind. That absolutely blew my mind. Now, what's to come of it? I don't know. Maybe nothing. Probably nothing. But the information's out there now. That narrative is spun. And we could go all the way back to the WikiLeaks stuff if y'all really wanted to break down what it was the DOJ was giving to modern media. The DOJ was giving talking points. I'm not making this part up. The Department of Justice was issuing talking points to certain specific select media outlets about what to call an investigation, call it a matter as opposed to investigation. Jim Comey testified to as much about the specific talking points that were meant to be broken down. There were media outlets that were running stories by DOJ department heads to approve them before they published them. And we don't, I mean, you want to go like tarmac meeting and some other stuff. We can talk about all that stuff if you really want to. And that's just the Clinton related stuff. We're not even on to the actual unmasking stuff that they're talking about. I thought that was one of the most revelatory things that came out of there yesterday. We're talking about Attorney General Barr was supposed to be doing President Trump's bidding by getting Roger Stone off the hook and getting Michael Flynn off the hook. And what we really come down to find out is that there's another investigation entirely that might reveal something legitimate. And while we're supposed to be up there talking about AG Barr using federal troops to shut down some violence going on in Portland, that's what I thought I was going to be tuning into yesterday. And admittedly, there was a lot of that talk going on, but it really wasn't pointed to actually get anything done with it or across with it. And then I stumble upon this story this morning. Sean, it's in the show notes there. It's the red highlighted portion. It says a problem with consistency in New York City. It's that first Twitter link underneath that. We can go ahead and play this video here, and I'll tell you the problem with the consistency in New York City is, so they pulled Attorney General Barr up there yesterday to talk about how problematic it is that federal troops are the ones that are shutting down some of this violence. And you all know where I stand on this. In a very libertarian, strictly constitutional sense, I tend to agree with Rand Paul. But I even have problems with consistency myself. Vulnerability breeding vulnerability here. I have problems with consistency myself pitching that type of thread because of what I'm about to show you here that just happened in New York City. Rand Paul's approach in this was like, look, man, 10th Amendment says that the policing power, 10th Amendment, it's not really a 10th Amendment thing, but whatever, that the policing power should be left with the states. The power to enforce law should be left with the states. And when you have federal government coming in there and basically taking people off the street and putting them into unmarked vehicles, plain clothed officers, what you're about to see is they're talking about people in fatigues with not, there was a police badge on, but they're saying unmarked vehicles with unmarked officers, unidentified officers, putting people into unmarked vehicles. Sean, if you got that Twitter video pulled up here, go ahead and play that in the background for him. This happened in New York City. Just yesterday. mean, yeah, it's you see what's going on. So you're talking about federal officers that are marked to fatigues. No, what is this? Now, what is this? Attorney General Barr was meant to be up there yesterday responding to federal officers doing the same thing, I would assume, in Oregon. This is NYPD. This is a local operation. And now I have a real problem, don't I? A libertarian has a real problem, don't they? Democrats have a massive problem, don't they? Antifa has a major problem. Those people on the street have a major problem with consistency. And I'm admitting my own consistency problem right here. Now, here's the consistency problem, okay? What people are really saying is that they just don't like the feeling of federal officers doing what you just looked at on your screen. And I always had a problem with saying of just limiting it to protecting federal government buildings or just saying that it was a problem with federal government in particular or something that affected. Now I ran straight into it because what do I say about this? What do Democrats say about this? What do people on the street say about this? The whole pitch has always been that it's Trump's fault, that it's Trump's federal jackboots, that it's an overreach of federal power into state power, that it's violative of the 10th Amendment. But when local officers are doing it, what do I do now? Because now it's the local decision to do, arguably, something a little bit worse. That was just straight up people in plain clothes in a gray van. At least the federal troops had police in yellow on the badge with fatigues. I mean, you could tell they weren't just random people walking around in the street. So you understand what I'm saying with the consistency problem right now. And here's what New York NYPD responded to. Again, keep in mind, this all plays off what AG Barr was meant to be responding to yesterday. And the entire Democrat pitch was this whole thing about doing Trump's bidding. The entire Democrat pitch yesterday, one thing I haven't mentioned yet, they're all basically saying that it's Trump's sole purpose to gin up violence so he can move federal troops in, so he can posit a solution to the violence that he created. That's what they're saying. They're saying it's a reason for Trump to win the election. Are you doing Trump's bidding by sending federal troops in there so it can look like he's quelling the violence? Because Democrats then have to own it. So Democrats yesterday, I don't know if you walked backwards into this. I don't know who's responsible for the NYPD took responsibility for that. I don't know who has the foresight to be able to see how these chess pieces move together. But goodness, you couldn't Hollywood script this better, could you not? Democrats all day yesterday made a massive, massive pitch about Trump's trying to win the election by using unmarked vehicles and throwing people into him without due process, without all this other stuff. Again, all of that, honestly, as libertarian sense, I actually agreed with all that. Here's NYPD's response, though. You see it in the Twitter links right there. Quote, in regard to a video on social media that took place at 2nd Avenue and 25th Street, a woman taken into custody in an unmarked van was wanted for damaging police cameras during 5 separate criminal incidents in and around City Hall Park. The arresting officers were assaulted with rocks and bottles. When officers from the warrant squad, that's who those officers were, they call them the warrant squad. When officers from the warrant squad took the woman into custody in a gray NYPD minivan this evening, they were assaulted with rocks and bottles. The warrant squad used unmarked vehicles to effectively locate wanted suspects. When she was placed in the warrant squad's unmarked gray minivan, it was behind a cordon of NYPD bicycle cops in bright yellow and blue uniform shirts there to help effect the arrest. Now, one thing I couldn't find the quote of here, but NYPD went on to explain in an actual audio interview later on, they went on to explain that this is done all the time in New York City. And again, pause real quick. Hear me when I say, the purpose of me pulling this story up is not to explain that I personally feel that that's the correct way to do it. That's not the point of me doing this. The point of me doing this is to show, just simply demonstrate the weird sort of logical conundrum that Democrats have worked themselves into all day yesterday. AG Barr was meant to be doing the bidding of Trump by sending in federal jackboot troops to do allegedly exactly what New York City troops are doing right now. So how do you bifurcate the two, Democrats? How do I do it? Because now I, or any other libertarian or anybody else that's been pitching this idea that it's a problem when federal troops do it, now essentially has to say, and I'm asking for help for this. Okay, I'm openly, open book style asking for help here for consistency's sake. I now have to say, so that was good. That was fine. It was fine when New York City did it. It's not fine when federal troops do it. Or maybe it's fine when they both do it. Or maybe it's fine when neither one of them do it. You know what I'm saying?
Well, to me, as a tactic, it makes a lot of sense. We've had, I think, 9 people die who drove by protest and have been yanked out of their cars and either beaten to death or shot in the past 2 months. I mean, like, a couple weeks ago was the majority of them. Like a couple weekends ago, where the majority of the deaths were people who were driving by in regular cars and either yanked out of their car or shot. And to me, this tactic would probably make people afraid to mess with people who are driving by the protests, because it could be full of police. So if you start messing with them, it's a trap. And maybe one of them's there to even arrest you. So avoid the cars instead of like threatening them and yanking people out of them or even shooting at them. To me, as a tactic, it makes a lot of sense because people are getting harmed. You know what I mean? And I think that the police have a duty to protect us. I really do. And I don't think these people are protesters. I think they're a communist militia. I think they are in insurrection against our federal government. And I think at this point, you know, what are we, 9 weeks into this mess? 10 weeks? Yeah. If you're going out now, you know that you could be standing next to someone who committed arson, destruction of property, all the different assault charges that could be filed against people. You could be standing next to someone who's committed a crime in the past 10 weeks. And just like if you were in someone's house and you weren't doing any drugs, but they were doing a bunch of cocaine in the living room, you'd be arrested too if there was a SWAT raid. You'd be arrested just from proximity. If you know what I'm saying? That happens all the time. It happens all the time. So if you're going out to this stuff now, you should know by now that you have a very good opportunity to be arrested, but a probably better opportunity of getting hurt. So like, I don't have a lot of room left for the term peaceful protesters 11 weeks into violent riots, arson, assaults, and in my opinion, a communist militia committing insurrection against their government, whether it be the state government, the local municipality, or the seats of power of federal government, like the federal courthouse. And I'm not a statist. I'm not. But, like, the Constitution is not a suicide pact. We're not going to sit here and respect people's right to kill me. I know I'm not going to do that. They don't have a right to kill me, you know? And someone needs to protect me, and I'm all for them doing that. But that's and I know I'm being a little over the top here, but I think they're a communist militia. They're not peaceful protests, either by accident or on purpose, communist militia. Because like I said, at this point, if you go to a protest, you know what you're doing. You know what you're a part of, and you're not a part of anything peaceful anymore.
Richard just asked for the call-in number, by the way, so our boy Richard Sparza might be calling in. Richard, if you're still listening, that number 615-807-0619. That's 615-807-0619. 615-807-0619. Give us a call, Richard. I'd love to know your opinion on this. I'm sure he's going to call in here in just a second, but I'm telling you, buddy, it's seeing all of these narratives everybody's just lost the plot on this. All these narratives. So what am I supposed to think after yesterday's AG hearing, stumbling into this morning, that Bill de Blasio is doing the fascist bidding of President Trump now? So what, is everybody a fascist now? I can't follow it. It just doesn't track anymore. At least not in any sense of a logically cohesive manner. Maybe it never did. I'm honestly, I'm to that point now, Sean, right? Where I look at this thing that happened yesterday with NYPD troops, and I guess someone could reasonably say, well, all cops are fascists. All right, well, fine. Yeah, but they're also acting under the behalf of the mayor of New York City. And the mayor of New York City could shut all this down. He could have issued a public statement. He could make sure that that never happened before. Any single time there's a budgetary concern that comes up that says, like, by the way, we're using about $10 million to buy a whole bunch of unmarked gray minivans, de Blasio or anybody else could have said, like, no, we don't want any of that sort of type of fascism here. So what am I supposed to say now, man? Like that Bill de Blasio is on the fascist team with Trump? Like everybody in government is on the same fascist team with Trump? It just doesn't make sense. And at the same time, the other libertarian side of me is pulling back, saying, hold on, Mr. Henry, wait up. This is open book stuff here, y'all, right? But my libertarian side is saying, hold on, Mr. Henry, hold on. All right, wait up just a second, because you see what happens. The more violence comes, the more you're going to have some sort of, authoritarian response, and it's going to feel real bad. Like this unmarked car stuff of people, with normally clad clothes going to just be marching along when they're actually police officers. That stuff's going to be happening more and more often. And I find myself stuck in the middle here because nobody from either side is going to posit a solution to make it stop. And at the end of the day, what we do have to recognize is that there are very real elements and organizations that are pushing very real Marxist and communist philosophy right now. And it's not just philosophy anymore, y'all. It's enacted upon our streets every single day. I think it'd be a very healthy thing to recognize exactly what is being dealt with on both sides, probably. Because then that's a little bit why I was making the slightly facetious comment about when I wish somebody would have asked AG Barr yesterday, hey, Attorney General Barr, what do you make of the left's assertion that Trump is a fascist? Hey, AG Barr, what do you make of the right's assertion that they're pushing communism on the street? Because I think that's what we're really all kind of saying without actually saying it. And I think it'd be a very, very healthy thing for everybody to finally, one, admit that, and two, come out and try and have a conversation about that. Because then we can get through all this nonsense of, I don't know, like the mothers on the front lines or whatever this stuff is that's going on right now, man. It's all just a massive circus sideshow. Eric said in Facebook, by the way, these are scare tactics meant to plant seeds of doubt in the minds of those attacking the country. They want to happen. He says communist militia are useful idiots for communist militia, equally dangerous. A libertarian was just shot in Austin by someone in a car. He's dead now. Heard about that story. That's actually in the show notes down at the bottom here. He says, you're catching on, Mr. Henry. Everyone is fascist. He says everyone is fascist if they aren't bowing to the fringe left. And Teresa said martial law is one thing. The unmarked is scary.
You know what would be scary is if the police weren't doing this. The scary thing, here's my deal. In a perfect ANCAP libertarian world, there'd be gangs of different factions fighting in the streets, as opposed to our agents, people who are agents for us, who are acting upon our agency of make that stuff stop. Because otherwise, there would be people that are not licensed and bonded by the state and can't be held accountable, who could disappear, Like, what if a bunch of counter people in purple uniforms and purple masks and baseball bats and crowbars came and beat the crap out of all those people in New York who were standing around right there instead of the police? Because this is what I mean by, like, the Constitution isn't a suicide pact, okay? Like, rights are great. We talk about them too much. We don't talk nearly enough about responsibilities. We have rights. We have more rights than me and Grant and all you people watching, we have more rights than any human being who's ever freaking lived. Anytime in world history. Ever. We have rights. Okay? We also have a responsibility as a community, as a nation, as a state, as a municipality to, like, make sure that normal life can go on. That people can, like, pursue value. Bring value home, provide for their kids and stuff like that. All this stuff.
Hang on just a second, Richard. Sorry, go ahead, Sean. I was just telling Richard. Richard's on the line with us. I was just telling him to hold on so you can finish.
Well, let's get to Richard.
Rant there. Go ahead. Yeah, okay. All right. Sorry about that, Sean. My bad, buddy. I just cut Sean off. I felt really bad about that too. He was
don't feel bad. Don't feel bad, man. Well, my thing is that it could be more dangerous if the police weren't doing stuff to stop this. That's my point. In a perfect ANCAP world, we would be living in a much more dangerous place. Because I would know the police weren't there to protect me, so I would have to form a militia of my own and go
Richard,
fight people.
The callers can't hear Shine when it's just a tech thing that's going on the back end because I got a Google voice number up in mine. But Richard, Shine just said that in a perfect ANCAP world, we basically have a situation of Second Amendment holders that can't be held accountable in the same way that police officers can, at least not in the traditional sense for sure, training and all that stuff. But hey, Richard Esparza is on the line with us right now. You've heard the name several times, and many of y'all, especially Middle Tennessee area, may not know this guy, but he has been like core pillar foundation real news guy from the very beginning. He's one of these dudes we talk about that has admin rights to the real, like that's how real news real he is. Anyways, Richard, how's it going, buddy? What's up? He said it's real news. It all started, all the problems started when real news left the air is what he just said there. Yeah, I think that's their serious. Yeah, go ahead, Richard.
You said I can't be heard on the air?
I fixed that. They can hear you now. You're good to go.
Oh, okay. Well, I just wanted to mention all the craziness out there. I mean, the federal government you can't just tie their hands and say they can't protect what they have to eventually repair. So, but I don't like the idea of people being snatched up. The thing is, federal police don't, I guess they're not documented. I don't know. It's a very odd situation. But one thing I wanted, go ahead. I want to get to another point. Something earlier in the show.
One thing I'll say quick about that, as far as being documented in the sense of, badge and number type thing, you're seeing a lot of, videos and pictures going around of these lettering and acronyms and stuff. They are documented. It's just not in the sense of what you would document of a last name and an actual badge number that you could trace back to, say, the NYPD. You'd have to figure out what the acronym stands for, say, in the Army or National Guard or wherever these troops are coming from, DHS, I suppose, and figure out within DHS's hierarchy what's there. They are badged and stuff. It's just, you're right. It's just not in the way that makes people feel comfortable. And I think you hit it on the head, Richard, when you said a second ago, I was like, I don't like people unmarked coming, in plain clothes, putting people in unmarked cars. This just has a very, very terrible feeling to it. But you also can't abide by just the rampant unchecked violence on the streets. It's this darned if you do, darned if you don't thing. But Rich, you say you wanted to bring up something from earlier on. Go ahead, man.
Well, like what you said there, if you peruse CNN's YouTube page, they have nothing of any violence going on. So anyway, last point there. But you said your brother was working on some treatments for COVID, and I'm thinking, me personally, I had a little bit of awakening, a gradual awakening. I think David's kind of on the same vein. If you take vitamin C, and if you take heavy doses of vitamin C and vitamin D and a bunch of other things, I don't think COVID's going to have as big an effect on you personally. And the media is just totally ignoring that. If we're talking about boosting the immune system, why don't we talk about boosting the immune system so that things that are tried and true, God-given, where it's been time-tested. What did your mom give you when you had the flu? Why aren't we looking at those things? They work. There's doctors in Michigan who had a 100% success rate of no people going into the hospital. They had, I want to say it's around 500 COVID patients early on, and they were treating them with supplements. Me personally, I'm just going around knocking sodas out of people's hands if they have a mask on.
Oh, yeah. The sugar? What do you mean? Just because of comorbidity or something like that?
Well,
because sugar is bad for you.
Yeah.
Sugar is the most addictive drug in the United States. It kills you. There is no good benefit to sugar. Now, we all eat it, sure, but if we were truly wanting people to be healthy, why aren't we looking at those things and boosting the immune system? You're not hearing one thing from the CDC about boosting your immune system. You're not hearing anything about it from the media. It's just very, very peculiar to me.
There has become this thing, Richard, of sort of a media gatekeeper of what is and is not considered genuine scientific facts now. And maybe it has always been that way. We're just, a lot of people waking up to this right now. But you saw this from this viral video that's been going around yesterday.
The Breitbart
right?
video that got taken down. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. People were saying, who do you trust, Fauci or these doctors that believe in alien DNA. And I'm thinking, well, let them talk. I don't care if they believe in alien DNA. If they're telling me something that works, that defeats a virus, I don't care if they believe in alien DNA or not. Just give me the supplements or whatever treatment.
Yeah.
It's just baffling. And you've got a friend, and I've got a friend, a mutual acquaintance, David knows her as well, who was diagnosed with pneumonia. I got into a conversation about vitamin C with her, and the congestion came out of her lungs once she upped it, thousands of milligrams. She was already on, I think, 3,000 milligrams. And I mentioned that I've been doing about 15,000 for a year, and she upped it, and the congestion came out. So I hope your brother, love his heart, is throwing some kitchen sink at this stuff.
Oh, I hear you. Hey, Richard, buddy, we got to get Shine out of here. He's got a meeting to get to, but great call, man. Always good hearing from you too, buddy.
Always has a meeting. This guy, David Thompson, so important. All right,
buddy.
Keep it up, guys. We'll talk to you soon.
See you, man. Hey, there goes our good buddy Richard Esparza. Shine does have to get to a meeting here. We'll pick up more of that conversation tomorrow. I've got some research coming on the back end. By the way, as we're exiting out here today, Jessica said on Facebook, lemongrass, rose, hips, elderflowers, and hot water. Okay, stay well, she says. Yeah, that's been real news today. We love each and every one of y'all sincerely. We love that community we're building. We love the good comments that y'all have, the love that y'all are spreading. I would say, look, man, on the way out with everything else that's going on right now, love, compassion, genuine sincerity, as much as you can approach people in those types of mindsets and virtues and values going forward, that's how we're going to solve a lot of this stuff. Just be open. And I don't know, man, dare I say, do it in the Christ-like manner. He kind of had the best model for a lot of this stuff of sort of sacrificial representation. Yeah. Hey, my name is Mr. Henry. David Shine Thompson over there signing off for this morning. We'll see you tomorrow. Doing it big.